The bank hall fell silent as the young black boy held the check with shaking hands, unaware this moment would rewrite every rule. Cold marble floors reflected his fear while suited adults watched, assuming poverty had already decided the boy's fate today. The manager's eyes hardened, mistaking torn clothes for dishonesty, as judgment formed faster than any question. Chandeliers glowed above, mocking the child's hope, while power sat comfortably behind polished wooden desks. The boy whispered his request again, voice cracking, believing kindness still lived inside official buildings. A pen paused midair as whispers spread, feeding the manager's certainty that this check meant trouble. The father figure in the back remained silent, watching carefully, letting truth wait for its moment. The manager reached forward, fingers firm, already convinced this was another lie wrapped in desperation. Paper met tension as the check hovered between respect and humiliation, seconds away from destruction. The boy's eyes searched faces for mercy, finding only distance, rules, and unspoken bias. No one noticed the man behind him straighten his posture, recognition dawning quietly in his calm eyes. As the paper began to tear, destiny leaned closer, ready to expose arrogance to its harshest lesson. The torn paper fluttered down slowly, and the boy stood frozen, realizing silence can hurt deeper than spoken insults. Polished shoes shifted away from him as strangers protected their comfort instead of questioning the cruelty unfolding. The manager straightened her blazer proudly, mistaking cold authority for strength. Unaware eyes were silently recording her. The child's hand stayed open, empty yet honest, still believing rules existed to protect the weak, not crush them. Soft lights above felt harsh now, exposing how respect disappears when wealth is only assumed, never verified. A security guard glanced sideways, sensing something wrong, but training whispered louder than conscience ever could. Time slowed as whispers died, leaving judgment hanging heavier than the chandeliers above the banking hall. Behind the boy, the quiet man exhaled calmly, patience shaped by power he chose not to reveal yet. His eyes held no anger, only certainty that arrogance always destroys itself when truth finally speaks. The manager tapped the desk once, signaling closure, convinced she had ended a problem, not created one. The boy lowered his gaze, learning too young how dignity is often denied before questions are even asked. What filled the room wasn't defeat, but a charged pause, the kind that arrives just before reality strikes back. The man behind the boy finally stepped forward, his calm footsteps louder than anger, carrying weight built from unseen authority. His tailored silence unsettled the room because true power never rushes. It waits until ignorance exposes itself fully. The manager glanced up briefly, unimpressed, assuming another spectator without relevance or influence in her world. The boy felt a steady hand rest near his shoulder, not protective, but reassuring, like someone who already knew the ending. Air shifted as the man adjusted his cufflinks slowly, a habit learned in rooms where decisions move markets. Conversations froze mid-breath, sensing something change, though no one could yet explain what felt suddenly different. The man's eyes scanned the hall once, not seeking approval, only confirming how easily respect is misplaced. He spoke no words yet, letting discomfort grow, because silence can interrogate arrogance better than questions. The manager returned to her screen dismissively, convinced the moment had already passed beyond importance. The boy stood straighter now, his fear replaced by trust, unaware whose shadow had quietly claimed the room. Time pressed heavier as authority prepared to reveal itself patiently without theatrics or raised voices. And in that pause, every assumption made minutes earlier began cracking under the weight of truth approaching. The man finally cleared his throat softly, a simple sound that somehow carried more authority than shouting ever could. Heads turned slowly, curiosity replacing boredom, as people sensed this moment refused to end quietly anymore. The manager looked up again, irritation flickering, unprepared for how composed confidence unsettles shallow control. The man asked a single calm question, not defensive, not loud, but sharp enough to pierce practiced arrogance. Silence answered first, stretching awkwardly, exposing how authority often collapses when asked to explain itself. The boy watched closely, learning how dignity doesn't beg. It stands firm even when ignored by systems. Papers on the desk suddenly felt meaningless, symbols of power losing relevance under quiet scrutiny. The manager forced a smile, masking discomfort, realizing too late that tone does not equal truth. Eyes across the hall followed the exchange, sensing consequences forming before facts were even revealed. The man remained steady, hands relaxed, knowing control comes from certainty, not displays of dominance. A subtle tension pulsed through the room as respect slowly began shifting away from uniforms and titles. And in that fragile pause, arrogance met its first crack, unseen but irreversible, spreading beneath polished surfaces. The man finally spoke his name aloud, calmly, and the sound carried weight that shifted attention across the room instantly. The manager paused mid-motion, searching memory, sensing something familiar but dangerous in that composed introduction. A quiet ripple passed through the hall as a few heads subtly lifted, recognition beginning its silent spread. The boy looked up, surprised, realizing the voice beside him held confidence built far beyond this moment. The man repeated his name again, slower now, allowing meaning to settle where arrogance once lived comfortably. The manager's smile tightened, calculation replacing certainty, as doubt entered where authority once stood unchallenged. A senior clerk stiffened suddenly, eyes widening, connecting dots the manager had clearly ignored. Whispers returned, sharper this time, carrying a different tone, less judgment, more unease and curiosity. The man remained still, letting reputation speak for itself without needing explanation or raised volume. The boy felt something shift inside, fear loosening its grip as trust replaced confusion and shame. The manager glanced toward the back offices instinctively, already anticipating consequences forming beyond her control. In that moment, power quietly changed hands, not through force, but through truth, finally spoken aloud. The senior clerk leaned closer to the manager, whispering urgently, as disbelief struggled to fit inside confirmed information. The manager's fingers stiffened on the desk, confidence draining fast as reality pressed harder than pride ever could. Across the hall, a few customers quietly searched phones, curiosity turning into shock with every silent confirmation. The man remained unmoved, knowing truth needs no performance when facts already stand unshaken and absolute. The boy sensed the shift clearly now, watching fear replace judgment on faces that once ignored him. Air grew heavier as authority figures recalculated their tone, realizing the mistake was far larger than a torn check. The manager swallowed hard, rehearsing apologies that suddenly felt inadequate and dangerously late. A guard straightened instinctively, unsure whether to enforce rules or protect reputations now collapsing publicly. The clerk's voice trembled slightly, repeating the title slowly, as if saying it louder might make it unreal. The man's calm never broke, because power like his is practiced in boardrooms, not arguments or scenes. The boy stood closer to him now, safety replacing shame as truth wrapped around him like armor. What had begun as humiliation was quietly transforming into a reckoning no policy could contain or erase. The clerk finally spoke the title aloud, voice shaking slightly, and that single word instantly shifted the power inside the room. The manager froze where she stood, disbelief flooding her face as facts she ignored now demanded attention without mercy. Customers stopped pretending indifference because some truths force even strangers to witness accountability unfold publicly. The boy blinked in confusion, sensing change everywhere, unaware the man beside him held influence far beyond imagination. The clerk repeated the title again, clearer and louder, each syllable landing like judgment on careless arrogance. Silence thickened instantly, stripping titles, uniforms, and pride down to raw consequences no policy could protect. The manager's confidence collapsed inward, panic carefully hidden behind rehearsed professionalism that suddenly felt fragile. The man nodded once calmly, neither proud nor angry, simply confirming what corporate records already declared. A ripple of respect moved across the hall, replacing judgment with uncomfortable realization and sudden restraint. The boy felt protective presence beside him, understanding safety had been near him long before truth was spoken. Authority rebalanced quietly as titles learned humility when measured against character, restraint, and truth. In that moment, the torn check lost meaning because the real debt now belonged to those who judged blindly. The manager rose slowly from her chair, realizing authority collapses the moment truth enters a room uninvited and undeniable. Her voice softened instantly, hesitation replacing control as consequences lined up quietly behind her public mistake. Customers watched carefully, understanding this was no longer about money, but about dignity denied without reason. The man stayed calm and silent, proving accountability works best when witnessed clearly, not defended loudly. The boy felt relief settle inside him, sensing fairness for the first time where judgment once stood tall. Under bright lights, the moment turned instructional, showing everyone how power is tested when eyes are open. Never judge dignity by appearance, because real power often stands silent beside humility, waiting for truth to expose arrogance.